Ancient Overlord. There once was a royal sword passed down in a prodigious kingdom that had prospered for generations. It was said the crystal embedded upon it contained a great magic, and should it ever absorb the blood of 10,000 people, it would glow bright red and grant its wielder immortality. However, this kingdom's final ruler, known to the world as the High King, valued the continued prosperity of the kingdom he had inherited from his ancestors over any prospect of eternal life. One day, the queen, the king's dearest love, lost her life in a tragic accident. She was with child, and the tragedy occurred shortly before the babe was to be born. Distraught with grief upon hearing the news, the aged king found himself unable to accept the prospect of his royal bloodline dying with him. In an attempt to continue the kingdom's legacy by attaining a body without death, the now mad High King used the sword to cut down any and all subordinates or citizens unlucky enough to cross his path. "If I am to be the final king," he was heard to cry, "then the kingdom survives so long as I live." He killed his subjects by the dozens, the hundreds, the thousands, and with each life he stole, the crystal's life grew more radiant. But when the crystal was nearly full, the king's ailing heart proved unable to bear the burden and burst, killing him on the spot. Alas, had he just slain the pregnant woman and unborn child that were before his very eyes, he would have taken exactly 10,000 lives. Beastbane. Long, long ago, in a faraway kingdom, there lived 3 brothers. The middle brother was a famous general who commanded a vast army. People everywhere were terrified of his troops, for they were most violent indeed. This general loved to make war. He enjoyed nothing more than watching cities burn and corpses pile up, and he fought not to subjugate, but simply to destroy all that he could. His well-trained soldiers laid waste to towns, cities, and even nations for the sake of their general. And as they hewed and hacked and chopped, the general would chuckle to himself in the most vulgar of tones. The army marched on and on. Nations by the sea. Nations in the mountains. Nations in the desert. Nations in the tundra. Nations to the east. Nations to the west. The general cared not. He simply wished to watch it all burn. His orders were absolute, and for years beyond counting, the soldiers killed and 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 killed. After some time, the army arrived in a certain nation. They killed its soldiers. They killed its town people. They killed its princesses and princes and dukes and bakers and lawyers and accountants and beggars and thieves. Eventually, a shabby general came pleading for his life with tears in his eyes, but they killed him as well. However, the soldiers thought he seemed familiar, and tried to recall how they might have known him. In that moment, however, the general's daughter appeared, and they became so engrossed in ending her life, they never thought about the matter again. Blade of Treachery. The sisters were puppets of complex machinery. So fine was their construction that any who laid eyes upon them assumed they were human in every way. They were the embodiment of man's greatest technological achievements. They walked like humans, ate like humans, laughed like humans. The one thing they could not do, however, was shed tears, for they were not designed that way. Because the sisters were machines, they felt nothing. Oh, they might mourn as humans did, but they experienced no true sadness, for they did not know what sadness was. Even when their friends perished in tragic accidents and their creator died of disease, they felt nothing. To the sisters, all it meant was that those people no longer existed. It was a warm spring's day when a lone cat wandered into their home. It was a scrawny, filthy thing riddled with disease. What a bother, the sisters thought as they looked down at the wretched creature. But they fed it milk, wiped it clean, and kept it warm, and soon the cat was well again. From that day forth, it would linger wherever the sisters were, brushing against their legs when it wanted food. If it caught a mouse, it would bring it back to boast its prowess. If it wanted love, it would cry out to them in a mewling voice. It was a cold winter's day when the cat came into their house, let out a feeble squeak, and died. Time and again did the younger sister shake the cat's body. Time and again did the elder sister call out to it. But the cat neither moved nor responded. In that moment, the sisters felt as though they felt something break deep inside their chests. And from that day forth, they truly felt nothing at all. Earthworm's Claw. An elderly scholar sits in the dim reference room of a moldy museum. Before him lies a single box which has long been sealed away. It is an article the museum's previous curator made abundantly clear should never be opened. It is said the box contains a fossil that drinks the blood of humans. What foolishness. One would think we as a people would have outgrown such nonsense. Only someone who spends all their life surrounded by books could possibly believe such preposterous superstition. He opens the box, which spits forth a cloud of dust, and beholds a single stone of bizarre shape. Looking at the attached handle, one could easily conclude it was used in some manner of ceremony. However, it could also be viewed as a weapon. And what a fascinating shape. Yes, this will require rigorous research indeed. How foolish everyone was to be afraid of something like this. The scholar chuckles softly to himself as he reaches up and gouges out his left eye with the fossil's tip. Faith. There was once a famous poet in a land to the far, far east. Now, in his twilight years, his ability had withered such that he could no longer craft a single stanza or verse. The poor poet spent every moment racked with sorrow for what had been lost. But one day, a monk appeared by his side, gently placed a blade in his hand, and imparted the following words. Kill one by this blade for one poem, and two for two in kind, the likes of which will be more splendid than any this world has ever heard. Clinging to the monk's words, the man waited for the cover of darkness and cut down a man he encountered by the roadside. The following day, he wrote a most beautiful poem, instantly reclaiming the fame and prosperity he had lost. The poet went on to kill two in succession. He killed one and wrote a poem, then killed again and wrote another, rising to almost dazzling levels of wealth and renown. But soon he became obsessed with knowing how splendid a poem he might write if he were to kill someone precious to him. He killed his wife and wrote a poem. He killed his children and wrote a poem for each. He moved through his estate, killing everyone there, writing and writing and writing and writing and writing. Eventually, he killed so many passers-by that the poems could not keep up. He would kill and write, then kill and kill and kill and kill, until in the end he took his own life, no longer crafting poems at all. All that remained was a blade wet with blood.
Fool's Embrace.
I was saved from the despair that shackled me. I was freed from the fate that cursed me. I was pacified from the indignation that plagued me. I was changed by the day I met you. My flames will scorch the earth below. My fangs will know the taste of blood. My claws will rend my enemies asunder. My wings will soar through the skies above. If your eyes are to be robbed of their light, if your skin is to be stained with blood, if your sword is too heavy a burden, if your lips can no longer produce speech, even if this body is snuffed out, even if these words are stolen, until our contract is complete, until the moment this warmth is lost. Labyrinth's Whisper. So, this girl had a huge set of horns on her. Beautiful horns, like a bull, just growing out of her head above her ears. I had myself a gander at where the horns met the head, and let me tell you, they were coming straight out of her skull. She was the only kid like that in the whole village. The others were all normal. The kid with the horns, though, born real small, apparently. The horns were, I mean, not the kid. And hell, they wouldn't need it to be. Fat chance the kid's mom would have been able to push out a pair of horns huge as that. You'd think a kid like that would be bullied, right? Well, you'd be wrong. That kid was the hardest person for miles in any direction. Wasn't the man in the village who'd tangle with her. And we're talking men what ain't scared of nothing. She was the best at doing work what needed physical strength and all that, and she always led the charge when our shades attacked, and folks loved her for that, sure. But most of all, they loved her because she was always cheerful and just plain tough. But one day, this huge shade attacked the village that was just too strong. It tore the men apart like old rags, and half the guys in the village died. The girl with the horns fought with all she had, but eventually she couldn't keep up, and the shade lifted her off the ground and ripped the horns right out of her head. The way she screamed was like nothing you've ever heard. Sound shook the earth itself, it did. After that, things got real quiet. So I stepped outside and found both the shade and the girl dead. Each of them had wounds all over, and they were leaking blood out just about everywhere. And don't judge me for us saying this now, but it was almost beautiful. Like looking at dark red flowers in full bloom, you know. Hope that answers your question about why folks in this village can't hear nothing. But you should know, none of us think badly of the girl for making us this way. Being deaf is a hell of a sight better than being dead. Anyway, we've all talked over that day to death, and we think that final scream was her way of saying goodbye. Everyone in the village is honored that the last thing we ever heard was her farewell. And that's the God's honest truth.
Lily Leaf Sword. I love him with all my heart, as he does me. When we cross paths outdoors, he sends me signals with his eyes that only I can understand. He treasures my gifts so much, he keeps them locked away in a safe. Oh, I couldn't ask for a better lover. I can't believe this! My best friend deceived the love of my life and stole him from me. One moment he was there, and next he was gone. All that remains are some of my gifts, which are scattered across his empty room. Everything else of value has been sold at the village marketplace. This will not stand. He hasn't abandoned me. He's just being tricked by that woman. I know he still has feelings for me. He must! I'm far more beautiful than she is, and he knows it. Oh yes, he knows. But I must make him see the truth, and quickly. I have to get her away from him. I have to kill her. Kill! Hurry up and kill! Consumed by her madness, the woman slaughtered the young husband and wife, hacking them with such force that the blade of her sword warped. The woman then went into hiding, leaving behind only clumps of unrecognizable meat and a sword with a horribly bent blade. But no matter how many smiths attempted to repair the sword, it never again retained its original shape. Moonrise. There is a legend of long ago that speaks of a nation threatened by a great inferno. This nation, however, was saved from eternal hellfire by a sword with the power to freeze anything. Around this sword stood thousands upon thousands of ice sculptures. A man on a journey to seek out weapons eventually discovered the sword. He wrapped it in several layers of cloth and took it with him, placing it in the bag he carried upon his back. But before the man realized what was happening, the cloth, the sword, and his own body ended up frozen solid. A traveling shrine maiden eventually discovered the sword. She offered a prayer to her god and gripped the hilt, but cold instantly shot throughout her fingers and into her body, freezing her solid. In her final moments, the shrine maiden unleashed words of great blasphemy to the god who had failed her. An enslaved woman in a mine eventually discovered the sword. Desiring an easy death over the continuation of her daily suffering, she grasped the weapon firmly. And while the woman did not freeze, she was also unable to pierce her own flesh. Soon, moonlight shone upon the blade of the weapon, reflecting the sight of the woman being beaten and dragged away by her master. Nameless Blade. Sweat rolls down the faces of hard-scrabble men as they chip away at ironstone, their cheerful singing echoing through the mine. We are workers, workers in the mine, dirty from tip to toe. Again today we search for iron with all our might. The sound of women stomping on bellows in the mill. The sound of iron being gathered from the scorched sands. We are workers, workers in the mill, workers who send wind. Today we stomp the bellows again with all our might. The sound of swordsmiths wielding hammers at their forges. The ringing of such transformative blows is stunning indeed. We are swordsmiths, swordsmiths who bring blades to life, lords of steel. The sound of flesh being rent on the battlefield, the sound of killing enemies, killing someone, killing humans. Someone help me! It hurts! It hurts so much! Help me, Mommy! Nirvana Dagger. The girl had been betrothed to a local lord on the day of her birth. As she grew, her days were taken up studying proper bridal technique, while her evenings were spent staring out her bedroom window and offering prayers for her betrothed to the night sky. Oh, my lord, if only you would come to me but a single day sooner. Her home was occupied by several other girls her age. Each one shared the same betrothed and spent her days studying bridal techniques and her evenings praying to the night sky. Oh, my lord, if only you would come to me but a single day sooner. One day, a quarrel broke out as the girls argued that only the greatest among them could become their lord's betrothed. None would yield an inch, each asserting only they alone could possibly satisfy him. Seeing this, their caretaker said in a kind voice, "Worry not, girls. Each and every one of you shall surely become bride to our Lord." Hearing this, every face lit up in an expression of pure joy. On the day they were to be married, the girls were brought to a place of cobbled stone they could see from the windows of their home. A single dagger was then placed before them, and the girls were told they needed to end their life here and now if they wished to meet their betrothed. Upon hearing this news, the girls scrambled to seize the dagger from one another, plunging it into their chest the moment they held it. Years later, a temple named the Betrothed was built on the spot where the girls took their own lives.
Phoenix Dagger. There once was a woman who promised her hand to a man who was departing for the front. Devout by nature, she spent mornings, afternoons, and evenings in prayer for the safety of her beloved. Perhaps in response to her earnest pleas, one night a bird enveloped in light appeared to her in a dream and began to speak.
"The man you love will surely return safely,"
said the bird in a beautiful voice. These words brought great comfort to the woman, and she began weeping tears of joy.
"However,"
continued the bird,
"his heart will surely not."
Soon the man returned as the bird had foretold, his body covered in scars beyond counting, but as the bird had also foretold, he returned with an unfamiliar woman of extraordinary beauty at his side. Despite this, the pious woman could not contain her love for the man and ran out to meet him as he approached. Surprised, the man embraced her, then collapsed to the ground. The pious woman stood over him, a bloody dagger in one hand and the ripe crimson fruit of his heart in the other.
"His heart will stray no longer,"
she whispered. Amidst the gathering pool of blood, her face awash with pure ecstasy, she placed a tender kiss on her beloved's heart and offered a prayer of gratitude.
Rebirth. That's right. This here's the weapon that'll be ending your life. Aw, don't sweat it. There's nothing to worry about. It'll be a pain the likes of which you've never felt before. In fact, you won't even feel pain at first. It'll be more like water sliding across your skin. Honestly, for most folks, it ain't the pain that makes them scream. It's the sight of their own blood flowing out of them. Yeah, it won't end so easy. See this part of the blade right here? This part hurts like a real son of a bitch. It's my favorite, which is why I always save it for last. I like to use it after people's voices get too hoarse and you can't tell what they're saying, which is a real... Fucking hell, are you ever loud? Mind popping down there? You're gonna make my hand slip. I won't kill you right away, so don't worry about a thing there, champ. I'm gonna take my sweet time before you finally give up the ghost. Honestly, you'd be surprised how much it takes to kill a person. I mean, think about it. People got 2 eyes, most of them anyway, and 2 ears. 10 fingers, 10 toes, 20 nails across the lot. And don't even get me started on joints, cause folks got hundreds of the damn things. Yeah, we got plenty of ways to keep ourselves entertained. Why am I doing this? Now ain't that a question? Buddy, I'm just doing what you've been doing for a good long while now. Nabbing innocent citizens on fake charges, torturing them, and putting their severed heads on display. That ring any bells, buddy? It should, 'cause it was all you. Guess maybe you forgot about all that, eh? Well, that's okay. I'll spend all the time it takes to make sure you remember every last thing you did to my wife and daughter. Kaine's sword. She fears. She fears the pain, the suffering, the sadness of losing those she cherishes. However faint, that feeling alone remained with her. She fights. Her swordsmanship is so violent, it wards off sorrow itself.
Nothing can stop her vengeful blade its grim work, not even the fountains of blood that cloud her vision. She dreams. The darkness sings to her of solitude and despair, but she resists, time and again, never breaking. She presses on. Even if the future that awaits has no meaning, she presses on. Because this is the world with
Iron Pipe, May 21st. We finally ran out of money. Food just costs a lot more nowadays because of the war. We tried begging at the church, but they have their hands full caring for the wounded and can't spare anything. Yona's really lost a lot of weight. I wish I could get her something to eat. July 15th. We met a nice lady who gave us some food. At first I thought she was homeless like us, but she said she was joining some kind of relief and support thing run by the government, so we decided to go with her. At least Yona seems to be doing okay today. August 1st. That nice lady from before used the book and turned into a monster. We ran away as fast as we could, because I don't think she's human anymore. Everything those adults told us was a lie. They won't give us money, and they won't treat Yona's illness. Also, there's a huge wall around the city now, and we can't get out. We never should have come here. August 5th. It's so cold today. I can't believe it's summer. I can actually see my breath. We decided to hide from monsters in an abandoned supermarket. We found a few old cans of food there, but now those are gone. Also, Yona's cough just won't quit. I've got a really bad feeling about this. Virtuous Contract. Pod, relay the following command. Mission complete. Destruction of target verified. I will return to the bunker after recovering remains. Over. Pod, relay the following command. I've made contact with the operations target. No suspicious activity observed at present. I will continue monitoring the target. Over. Pod, relay the following command. I investigated the target's observational records, but found no hostile behavior. Requesting target re-examination and the temporary suspension of this operation. Destruction of target verified. I make no apologies, for I promised I would not. Farewell. Cruel Oath. I'm starting your boot sequence. As you lay resting before me, I call out to you. I want to let you sleep a little longer, but I've got my orders. Let's start by getting the brightness set. I was the first thing you saw after you woke up. I hope my hair looks alright. Let's check your voice recognition settings. Can you hear me? Mine was the first voice you heard after you woke up. I have to try and keep my voice nice and deep. I don't want to sound too excited. Okay, settings should be good to go. Good morning. And so we peacefully boot up to face yet another day. Another day of killing our machine enemies.